I told myself it was a mistake. That guilt would drown me. But after he pressed into me in the hallway, silent, hungry, complete, the only thing I felt was quiet. Not shame, not regret, just alive. He was my husband's cousin. And I let him do it again. Because once you feel seen after years of being invisible, you don't want to go back to numb. Dim the lights, settle in. You're entering late-night confession stories, anonymous truths, hidden desires, no judgment. This one's about the kind of longing that blurs every boundary. Subscribe if you're ready for more, because once you hear this, it'll stay with you. Let's dive in. I used to think boundaries were solid things, lines drawn in concrete. You either stepped over them or you didn't. And if you did, the guilt would arrive immediately, loud, punishing, final. But the truth is quieter than that. Boundaries blur in the dark. They waver when someone looks at you like you still exist beneath the grocery lists, the school pickups, the endless folding of small socks that no longer belong to small feet. They disappear entirely when you've spent so long being unnoticed that even the wrong kind of attention feels like oxygen. I was 41. Angela. Married 17 years to Jason. 2 children who still hugged me goodnight. A husband who still came home every evening, still paid the mortgage, still kissed the top of my head before turning off the lamp. Jason hadn't touched me with real desire in. I stopped counting the months because the numbers started to feel like a wound I didn't want to keep reopening. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself love wasn't supposed to be fireworks forever. I told myself routine was the same thing as safety. His name was Harvey, Jason's cousin. Not a child anymore, nearly 30, broad-shouldered, quiet in the way men are when they've already seen too much of life's sharper edges. He stayed with us sometimes when work brought him to town. Slept in the guest room. Ate dinner at our table. Helped carry boxes up the stairs without being asked. Fixed the gutter after storms without fanfare. He was family. Sort of. The kind of family you're allowed to notice, but never allowed to look at twice. It didn't begin in the hallway. That was only the first time we let it breathe. It started months earlier, small, deniable moments I replayed in secret. The afternoon I wore a thin tank top while cleaning the kitchen, no bra underneath, telling myself it was just hot. The way Harvey's eyes flicked over me once, then away, then back again, quick, guilty, hungry. The evening he said, "You look really nice today," and his voice cracked just slightly on the word really. I thanked him. I smiled. I carried that sentence in my pocket for 3 days like contraband. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself compliments were allowed. I told myself I wasn't starving. But I was. Not for sex. Not even for romance. For attention. For someone to see the woman underneath the mother, the wife, the manager of schedules and snacks and small crises. For someone to look at me and not see only the scaffolding holding everything else together. That night I was in the hallway outside the laundry room. The dryer hummed behind me, warm and steady, the only sound brave enough to fill the house after everyone else had gone to bed. I stood there folding a shirt I'd already folded twice. My bare feet were cold against the tile. I didn't hear Harvey come up behind me. One moment the hallway was empty. The next, I felt heat at my back. His breath landed soft and deliberate on the nape of my neck. Not accidental, not innocent. I froze. Not from fear. From recognition. From the sudden, terrifying certainty that this was the moment I had been pretending not to wait for. One hand braced the wall beside my head. The other slid slowly, deliberately, up my hip. Fingers splayed. Not tentative. Certain. Like he already knew I wouldn't pull away. And I didn't. I arched back, just enough. Just the smallest movement. But it was enough. Enough for him to press forward. Enough for fabric to shift. Enough for silence to become something thicker, heavier, alive. Harvey entered me without a word. Slow. Full. Silent. My fingers clenched the dryer handle, warm metal grounding me while the rest of me unraveled. His weight met mine from behind, patient but hungry. Every time I tightened around him, his breath changed. A low, broken sound he tried to swallow. I kept tightening. Not to tease. To trap the moment. To keep it from slipping away the way everything else had. The hallways smelled like fabric softener and skin. The dryer spun endlessly behind us, white noise covering what little sound we made. No moans. No whispers. Just breath. Just rhythm. Just the quiet slap of skin meeting skin in the dark. When it ended, Harvey stayed inside me a second longer than necessary. Then he stepped back. I straightened my shirt. I didn't look at him. I didn't speak. I just walked away, legs unsteady, heart hammering, mind strangely blank. Not peaceful. Not ashamed. Just quiet. A quiet louder than any apology I could have offered. The next morning, I made coffee the same way I always did. Measured the scoops. Stirred in the sugar Jason liked. Waited for the guilt to arrive like a fist to the stomach. It never came. Jason scrolled his tablet. Asked if I'd remembered to renew the car insurance. I said yes. He kissed the top of my head on his way out. Same as always. The world kept turning. But inside me, something had cracked open. Not broken. Just exposed. And the air rushing in felt too sharp. Too fresh. Too real. I told myself it was once. A mistake. A moment of weakness. I told myself I would never let it happen again. But already even then I knew I was lying. Because when I walked past the hallway later that day, when I caught the faint scent of Harvey's shampoo still lingering on the air, my body remembered before my mind could stop it. And the remembering wasn't painful. It was hungry. I told myself it would end there. One night. One mistake. A single crack in the wall that could be patched and forgotten. But cracks don't heal themselves. They spread. Quietly. Invisibly. Until the whole structure feels different under your hand. The days after that hallway moment looked exactly like the days before. I drove the kids to school. Packed lunches with the same cartoon napkins. Answered Jason's texts about what time he'd be home. Folded laundry. Wiped counters. Smiled when Jason kissed my forehead and said, "Love you," before turning on his side to sleep. Everything on the surface stayed the same. But underneath, something had shifted. The air in the house felt thicker. Every time I passed the hallway, my pulse remembered before my mind could stop it. Every time I smelled Harvey's shampoo on a towel he'd used, my stomach tightened, not with guilt, but with something sharper. Hungrier. Harvey didn't leave right away. He had another week in town for work. He stayed in the guest room. He sat at the dinner table. He laughed at Jason's jokes. He asked me polite questions about the kids' school projects. To anyone watching, nothing had changed. But when our eyes met across the table, just for a second, the room narrowed. The clink of forks became distant. The hum of the refrigerator faded. And in that brief silence between glances, I felt it again. The heat of his breath on my neck, the press of his body, the way I had arched back without a word. I avoided the hallway when he was near. I took the long way around the house. I kept the laundry room door closed. I told myself distance would starve it. That if I didn't feed the memory, it would fade. But memories don't starve. They wait. One afternoon, Jason took the kids to soccer practice. The house emptied. The quiet settled like dust. I went to the laundry room anyway, telling myself I needed to switch loads. I opened the dryer. Warm air rushed out, carrying the scent of fabric softener and something else. Harvey. His gray t-shirt was tangled in the sheets. I pulled it out, held it, pressed it to my face before I could stop myself. Inhaled. Clean cotton. His skin. The faint trace of his cologne. My knees weakened. I sat on the closed washer lid, held the shirt tighter, told myself to put it down, to walk away. I didn't. I heard footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Harvey appeared in the doorway. He didn't speak at first. Just watched me sitting there, clutching his shirt like a confession. His eyes darkened. Not angry. Not surprised. Knowing. I should have stood up. Should have handed him the shirt. Should have said something normal. I was just folding. Instead, I stayed seated. Legs pressed together. Breath shallow. He stepped inside. Closed the door behind him. Not all the way. A sliver of hallway light remained, a thin reminder that the rest of the world still existed. He crossed the small space in 2 steps. Stood in front of me. So close I could feel the heat coming off him. I didn't look up. I couldn't. His hand reached out slow and took the shirt from my fingers. Set it aside. Then his palm cupped the side of my face. Thumb brushing my cheekbone. Gentle. Almost tender. But his breathing was ragged. Betraying everything calm his face tried to show. "You've been avoiding me," he said quietly. His voice slow. Rough. I swallowed. Nodded once. Small. Honest. "Why?" he asked. I finally looked up. Met his eyes. They were dark. Searching. Hurting. The same way mine had hurt for years before that night. "Because if I don't avoid you," I whispered, "I'll want it again." Silence stretched. Thick. Charged. Then Harvey leaned down. Forehead resting against mine. Not kissing. Just breathing the same air. His hand slid to the back of my neck. Fingers threading into my hair. Holding me there. "I want it again too," he said. Simple. No apology. No excuse. Just truth. I closed my eyes. Felt the warmth of him. The pull. The ache I'd tried to bury. And then slowly I leaned forward. Just enough. Just like before. Harvey's mouth found mine. Soft at first. Then deeper. Hungrier. His hands moved to my waist. Lifted me off the washer. Set me on the dryer. Warm metal against my thighs. My legs parted instinctively. He stepped between them. Pressed close. Fabric between us. But not for long. We didn't speak after that. No words. No promises. Just hands. Breath. Movement. He entered me again, slow, full, certain. My fingers dug into his shoulders. His mouth at my neck. The dryer vibrated beneath me. A steady hum matching the rhythm we found. I tightened around him. He groaned against my skin. Low. Broken. I kept tightening. Not to control. To feel. To remember. To keep. When it ended, we stayed like that. Foreheads pressed. Breaths mingling. Sweat cooling. The dryer clicked off. Silence rushed back in. Harvey stepped away first. Fixed his clothes. Picked up the shirt I'd been holding. Looked at me one long moment. Then he left. Quiet. controlled. I stayed on the dryer, legs still trembling, chest heaving, staring at the closed door. No tears, no panic, just quiet. The same quiet as before, but this time it felt heavier, because now I knew it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, and I had made it twice. If this confession is already pulling at something inside you, hit that like button right now. It really helps these stories reach more people who need to hear them. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a raw, honest confession like this one. And drop a comment below. Have you ever felt so invisible that even the wrong attention felt like breathing again? Would you have stopped or kept letting it happen? No judgment here, just real talk. Now, let's go back to Angela's story. Twice became 3 times, then 4. Then I stopped counting because numbers started to feel like evidence I didn't want to present in court. Each time followed the same quiet pattern. A moment alone in the house. A door left slightly ajar. A hallway passed too closely. A look that lingered 1 second longer than safety allowed. And then, without words, without discussion, Harvey would find me. Or I would find him. The distinction blurred faster than I expected. One evening Jason had a late meeting. The kids were at a sleepover. The house felt too big, too quiet. I told myself I would stay in the kitchen. Wash dishes. Scrub counters that were already clean. Keep my hands busy so my mind couldn't wander. But my feet carried me down the hallway anyway. Past the laundry room. Past the guest room door that stood cracked open. Just enough. I paused there. Hand on the frame. Heart thudding so loud I was sure he could hear it from inside. I didn't knock. I didn't speak. I just stepped in. Harvey was sitting on the edge of the bed. Shirt unbuttoned halfway. Elbows on knees. Looking at the floor like he'd been waiting for this exact second. When he lifted his eyes to mine, there was no surprise. No hesitation. Just recognition. The same recognition I felt every time our paths crossed in the house. He stood slowly. Crossed the room. Stopped inches from me. The air between us crackled. Not with electricity. With inevitability. He didn't ask if I was sure. I didn't offer reassurance. We both knew the answer had already been given in arched backs, in clenched fingers, in the way we kept finding each other in the dark corners of the house Jason and I had built together. Harvey's hand slid to my waist, pulled me closer. My palms flattened against his chest, not to push away, but to feel the steady thump of his heart matching mine. Then his mouth was on mine. Harder this time. Less careful. Like the restraint we'd both been clinging to had finally snapped. I kissed him back the same way, hungry, desperate, angry at how much I needed this. His hands moved under my shirt. Warm palms against bare skin. Fingers tracing ribs. Cupping breasts. Thumbs brushing peaks until I gasped into his mouth. My legs trembled. He caught me. Lifted me. Carried me to the bed. The same bed I'd stripped and remade for guests 100 times. He laid me down gently. But there was nothing gentle after that. Clothes came off in hurried pieces. Shirt over my head. His jeans shoved down. My leggings peeled away. No slow unwrapping. No reverent ritual. Just need. Raw. Urgent. He settled between my thighs. Pressed in deep, full, claiming. I arched up to meet him. Legs wrapping around his waist. Nails digging into his back. The bed creaked under us. The headboard tapped the wall in quiet rhythm. I bit my lip to keep from crying out, not from pain, but from how good it felt to be wanted this fiercely. How good it felt to want back. Harvey moved with purpose. Not rushed. Not gentle. Deliberate. Every thrust deep enough to make me feel it in my bones. Every withdrawal slow enough to make me ache for the return. I tightened around him. He groaned my name low, broken, like it hurt to say it. Angela. Hearing my name in his voice rough, needy, cracked something open inside me. I came hard. Suddenly. Without warning. Body clenching. Breath stopping. Vision blurring. He followed seconds later. Burying deep. Shuddering against me. Fingers gripping my hips hard enough to bruise. We stayed like that. Tangled. Sweaty. Breathing uneven. The room smelled like sex and laundry detergent and guilt that still refused to arrive. Harvey rolled off me. Lay on his back. Stared at the ceiling. I stared at the same ceiling Jason and I had picked out together 5 years ago. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Then Harvey turned his head. Looked at me. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I laughed, small, bitter, surprised at the sound. No, I said. But I'm not sorry. He reached over. Brushed hair from my face. His thumb lingered on my cheek. I'm not either, he whispered. We dressed in silence. He left first, quiet footsteps down the hallway. I stayed on the bed a while longer. Sheets tangled around my legs. Staring at the ceiling again. Trying to feel the guilt I kept expecting. It never came. Instead, there was only quiet. The same quiet that had followed every time. But now it felt like a promise. Like there would be a next time. And the time after that. And I wasn't sure I wanted to stop it anymore. Later that night, Jason came home. Tired. Smiling. Kissed my cheek. Asked about my day. I told him it was fine. Normal. He believed me. Because I was still Angela. Still his wife. Still the mother of his children. Still the woman who remembered the almond creamer and the insurance renewal. But part of me was somewhere else now. In the hallway. In the guest room. In the quiet spaces between breaths. And that part wasn't going back to numb. The affair didn't end with a fight. Or a discovery. Or a tearful confession in the kitchen at 2 a.m. It faded. Slowly. Like smoke drifting out an open window. You smell it for days afterward, faint but unmistakable, until one morning you realize you can't smell it anymore. But you still remember the scent. Harvey's work contract ended. He left town. Told Jason he'd be back in a few months for another project. Hugged the kids. Shook Jason's hand. Looked at me across the driveway, one long, steady second, then got in his car and drove away. No goodbye kiss. No whispered promise. Just the soft click of the door and the low rumble of the engine fading down the street. The house felt emptier after that. Not dramatically. Not in a way anyone else noticed. But the hallway seemed longer. The guest room door stayed closed. The dryer hummed without anyone waiting in the shadows behind it. I still folded laundry. Still made coffee the way Jason liked it. Still kissed the kids goodnight and tucked them in with the same soft words. But part of me stayed in those stolen moments. In the press of a body against mine. In the sound of my name spoken like it mattered. Jason never suspected. Or if he did, he never said. He still rubbed my back when I stood too long at the sink. Still asked how my day was. Still fell asleep beside me with the same steady breathing. I let him. I responded. I smiled. But sometimes, when his hand rested on my hip in the dark, I closed my eyes and remembered different hands. Warmer. Hungrier. More present. And I hated myself for the comparison. Not because it was unfair to Jason, but because it was unfair to me. The guilt I kept waiting for never arrived in full force. It came in waves, small, unexpected. A pang when I changed the sheets in the guest room. A tightness in my chest when I passed the hallway and caught my reflection in the mirror. A quiet ache when I smelled fabric softener and remembered how it used to mix with Harvey's skin. But the guilt was never loud enough to drown out the other feeling. The one that whispered, you were alive. You were seen. You were wanted. And you wanted back. I didn't text him. He didn't text me. There was one message weeks later. Just 3 words, are you okay? I stared at it until the screen went dark. Then I typed, I will be. I deleted it before sending. Then deleted the thread. Then cried, not because I missed him, but because I missed the version of myself who had let herself feel something sharp and real after so long of feeling nothing at all. Months passed. The kids grew taller. Jason got a promotion. We went on a family vacation. Took pictures smiling on the beach. Posted them online. Looked like every other happy family. And maybe we were. Or maybe we weren't. I stopped trying to decide. I still walk the hallway at night sometimes. When the house is asleep. When the dryer isn't running. When the only sound is the soft creak of floorboards under my feet. I pause in the same spot where it started. Run my hand along the wall where Harvey once braced himself. Close my eyes. Feel the ghost of his breath on my neck. The weight of his hands. The way I arched back without hesitation. And for a moment, just a moment, I let myself remember without shame. Without apology. Just memory. Pure. Honest. Alive. I don't know if Harvey thinks about it. I don't know if he carries the same quiet scar. I hope he does. Not out of cruelty. But because it meant something. Because it wasn't nothing. Because for a short season, 2 people who were starving found each other in the dark and fed one another just enough to keep going. I still love Jason. In the tired, familiar, worn-in way you love someone who has stayed. I still fold towels. Still set alarms. Still remember birthdays and anniversaries. But I am not the same Angela who stood in that hallway the first time. I am softer in some places. Harder in others. I carry a secret now, not like a burden, but like a stone smoothed by river water. I touch it sometimes, turn it over in my palm, feel its edges, and then I put it back in my pocket. Because some things don't need to be confessed. They just need to be carried. If you've ever let someone see you when you thought no one could, if you've ever chosen hunger over numbness, if you've ever wondered whether the guilt will ever arrive, then maybe you understand. Maybe you've walked the same hallway. Maybe you've stood in the same quiet. And maybe, like me, you're still learning how to live with the echo. That's my confession. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, and still breathing. And that's Angela's confession. Quiet, aching, lingering. The kind of secret that doesn't explode, it just stays. Breathing softly in the background of every ordinary day. Thank you for listening all the way through. If this story touched something in you, if it made you think about invisibility, hunger, or the things we carry in silence, drop a like right now. It helps these confessions reach the people who need them most. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another raw, honest story. And in the comments, share what stayed with you. Have you ever let someone see you when no one else did? Would you have stopped or kept going? No judgment here. We carry these echoes together. Until next time, sleep well. Or don't.